Today we're going to be dropping our homestead workload by automating our chicken coop with large-scale feeders and automatic waterers. So today I'm going to share with you a couple of builds I've made for myself that I think could benefit you on your homestead. Now, when I'm trying to figure out what to build, I'm generally thinking along the lines of what can I automate to make my job easier? Because there's only one of me. So today we're going to learn how to automate a few things in your chicken coop. First, we're going to build an automatic chicken feeder. Now, when it comes to capacity, I have a lot of chickens and they eat a lot of feed. So the feeders that they sell in stores, I typically find are a little bit too small for me. So today we're going to be building a large chicken feeder that can hold probably 80 to 100 pounds of feed. I'm putting the feed into a clear bin because I want to see how much food is left at a glance. To start off with, you're going to need some tools. This here is a 75mm hole saw, and it's used for putting holes in things. Now this is a very simple DIY gravity-fed chicken feeder. It goes like this. This is on the inside and this is on the outside. What I like about it is it has this little awning here that prevents any poop or anything else from getting inside of the chicken feeder. Now, when it comes to putting your gravity feeders on, you're going to want to put them fairly low because as the feed goes down, the chickens still need to get to it. So the lower it is, the easier it is for them to get to the last little bit. So we're not going to get super technical about this. I'm just going to kind of eyeball it. You want to make sure there's enough space for the feed to get under it. So a little higher than that, right about there is good. And just make a spot with my marker. Now that's about 4 inches up from the bottom. So I'm just going to repeat that on all 4 sides. All right, now it's time to make our holes. I think you guys know the drill. You don't want to push too hard with the drill because you don't want to crack the plastic. We just pop the gravity feeder in and screw it on. And then we repeat it for the other 3 sides.
Once I'm done drilling the holes here, you'll notice that I'm going to come in with a razor blade and clean it up because there's some ragged edges on these. Once all those are cleaned up, I'm going to go ahead and I'm going to start screwing in my gravity feeders. No need to over tighten, hand tight will do the job.
So the reason I put one on each side instead of putting them all on one side or 2 sides, I want the chickens to be able to spread out. It prevents fights a little bit this way. And just like that, you're done. Easy peasy. Now, with the feeders as low on the bin as they are, you're going to need to raise it up. So what you're going to do is you're going to get 3 cinder blocks. You're going to put them in a row underneath this, and that's going to bring it up to the right height so their heads fit right inside without them having to stoop over too far. That covers the food. Now let's handle the water. One of my most common tasks is refilling chicken waters. I do it every day, and I don't mind because it gives me a chance to clean out the waters with a bleach solution to prevent the spread of coccidiosis or other viruses. But where does that leave you if you want to go on vacation or out of town for the weekend? You got to find somebody to take care of the chickens. Today, I'm going to show you how to build an automated chicken waterer. While I wouldn't use one of these year-round, it's great if you want to get away for a couple days or even a week. Now, as for the waterer, I want it opaque because I want to block the sun from getting in here, which will inhibit the growth of algae. This is a pretty simple build, but it is a little bit more complicated to feeder. We're going to need a number of different components. First, we're going to need a float valve, similar to the ones you have in your toilets. It's going to allow the water to flow in and shut off as it fills up. We're also going to need something called a bulkhead union. And this is going to allow us to create an overflow drain, so that just in case the float valve gets stuck, the water can drain out safely without creating a mess. And lastly, we're going to need a couple more of these gravity feeder heads, although they're not going to work for gravity this time. They're just going to help keep dirt and excrement out of the water. Okay, for step 1, I'm going to drill a hole for the float valve. I'm going to want to put this high into the side, that way it stays out of the way of our gravity feeder heads.
Once our hole is drilled, clean it up a little bit, and then you can install the float valve. Hand tight works again, it doesn't need to be a watertight seal.
I chose this float valve for a reason. It's got a 3/4 inch thread on here, which is perfect for a standard garden hose. This particular float valve has a male adapter, and since most hoses are female to male, I'm also going to need a female to female hose adapter. Next, I'm going to attach my hose so we can test out the water level.
Turn on your water line, and then you can let it fill until the water comes to an absolute and complete stop.
Now we're just going to go in and mark the water level. So I'm going to measure the distance to the line on the inside, and then measure to the outside and mark it.
I'm going to want 1 inch to 1.5 inches from the water line to the bottom of my hole saw.
The reason for that gap is so that we can install this overflow line, which is going to ensure that if the ball valve gets stuck, the chicken coop won't get flooded. The water has some place to escape to. Then we just line up and drill our hole. We install the bulkhead into the side, add our hose attachment. Once I have the water in place, I'll cut my hose to fit, and I just slip it in the hole and push it in. Now let's just fill it with water one more time and then drill our holes. At this point, we're filling it up so we can make sure that the bulkhead isn't too low or too high. Once the water calms down, I'm actually going to push down the float valve in order to get the water to come out of the overflow. This will give me the max height for the water.
Push that float valve down just until the water starts leaking out.
Once I know where that overflow line is, I can install my hoods just above it and never worry about my coop flooding if the ball valve gets stuck.
This time you're going to want to make sure they're about 1 inch above the overflow line. Then you just screw them in and you're good to go.
There you go, easy peasy. We have a chicken feeder and a chicken waterer. Now while the feeder is pretty straightforward, the waterer is a little bit more complex and has a lot of moving parts. Now, if you don't understand my directions on how to build the waterer 100% to a point where you feel comfortable making it, I suggest not doing it because leaks in your coop can be a major disaster. Homesteading is difficult, so wherever I can, I like to automate the process. Be sure and give us a like and subscribe to follow along for more tips on how to automate yours.